I'm going to tell you about a premium quality electric bike made for Europe, the Dimen electric motorcycle. A little background about the Dimen company and this electric motorcycle. The bike itself is called the DP03. It is manufactured by the company Dimen, which was founded by former employees of Allrenda and Horwin. At some point, they decided to create their own premium electric bike of European quality, and this is what came out of it. Dimen mainly produces electric scooters, but this is their first full-sized electric motorcycle. Guys, let's be honest, who likes this design? I won't go on and on, just take a look at it yourself. Personally, I can't say I absolutely love the design or that it's the stuff of my dreams, but it doesn't put me off either. The company. Dimen really put in the effort and didn't copy anyone. They created their own original design, and I have huge respect for that. And for those who don't like the black gloss, the bike comes in a huge variety of other colors. The dimensions of the electric bike are 207 by 80 by 109 centimeters. The weight of the electric motorcycle itself without the batteries is 100 kilograms, and each battery weighs 17 kilograms. At the front, there's an upside-down motorcycle fork with no adjustment options. To adjust it, you need to replace the oil with oil of a different viscosity. At the rear, there's a monoshock with spring preload adjustment. As for the braking system, here there are hydraulic disc brakes on both wheels. At the front, there's a 2-piston caliper, one on a single brake disc. And note, unlike budget electric bikes, here it is not attached. There's no weird contraption mounted on top of the brake disc. Instead, the ABS ring is cut directly into the brake disc itself. On the rear brake disc, the ABS ring is also neatly cut directly into the disc. But unlike the front disc, the caliper here is single piston. It seems like nothing unusual, but there are still some nuances. The Dimen electric motorcycle also features electric engine braking along with regeneration. Here's how it works. When you pull the brake lever, before the calipers actually clamp down on the brake discs, the brake light comes on, the power supply to the motor is cut off, and regenerative braking kicks in. In principle, you can brake using just this system. And here it really does regenerate. It's not fake like on budget bikes. You'll see this for yourself. I'll show you how to do that a bit later. This model is equipped with a geared electric motor. You can see the gearbox from the end of the motor. The motor is rated at 3 kilowatts with a top speed of 115 kilometers per hour. Personally, I managed to accelerate up to 116, but I'm sure that someone shorter with less wind resistance could reach 120. So, well, that's the maximum. Basically, it's just as the manufacturer claims, 115, although I got 116. The acceleration dynamics here are also quite good. It does 0 to 60 kilometers per hour in 3.5 seconds and 0 to 100 in 10 seconds. 0.63 seconds, 0.111 seconds, and last time I got it too. 0.64 seconds, 0.111 seconds. So now it's 0.61 seconds less and 0.100 seconds more. At the same time, there's traction control, which will prevent the rear wheel from spinning or slipping on wet or slippery surfaces. One of the coolest features of the Dimen electric bike is the glove compartment in the tank. The glove compartment is quite spacious. To give you a clear idea, it can fit about 4 large 1.5-liter bottles of water. There's also a USB port in the glove compartment for charging your devices. But the most interesting thing is underneath it. Let's take out this cloth. It has 4 special legs here, so you can even set it on the ground. Very convenient. And underneath it are 2 quick-release lithium batteries, 72 volts, 38 amp hours each. We turn off the first one, then the second one. Disconnect the terminal. First, carefully disconnect the second connector, firmly grab the integrated handle, and slowly slide out the battery pack. This is honestly one of the most unique and interesting batteries I have ever encountered on any electric bike. What is even more impressive is that you can actually use it as a high-capacity portable power station for your other devices whenever you are away from the motorcycle. Now let's take a closer look at what we actually have here. Let's start with this button. This button lets us check the current battery charge. Right now it has 4 out of 5 bars. So that's about 80%. In the middle of the battery, there's a carrying handle. Here we have a little blue cap. This is the charging port for the battery. Under this cap, you will find the power connector for connecting the battery up to the motorcycle. This silver one is the battery's power button. When it's not lit, the battery is off. When it's lit, the battery is on. Additionally, there are 2 ports located on the side. The first is a 12-volt port for a cigarette lighter. The second is a 5-volt port for USB charging. One port is rated at 1 amp and the other at 2.4 amps. You can charge the batteries separately. You can also charge them together by purchasing an adapter that splits the charger into 2 parts. And you can charge them through the electric motorcycle. In that case, both batteries are charged at the same time. Today, I took the bike out and found the cutoff threshold. Right now, one battery is at 18%, the other at 32%. They might be out of sync because they haven't been charged since leaving the factory. But the point is, when one of the batteries reached 35%, the speed limitation already started. Right now, it's at 18% on one and 32% on the other. And if you try to accelerate now, it will already start cutting off the power. Now, let's give it some throttle. That's it. The throttle doesn't work. You can hear 2 short beeps repeating on the controller. And in this specific case, you really need to charge the bike, or at least restart it and try to ride a little further at a very minimal speed. So if you have only 35% charge left, that means you really need to get to a power outlet as quickly as you possibly can. The range with 2 batteries is 160 kilometers in eco mode and only 70 in full power mode. I'll explain why there's such a big difference a bit later when I talk about the riding position on the electric bike, the dimensions. Here, the seating position is upright and, in my opinion, quite comfortable. The handlebars are high, the seat is low and recessed, and at the same time, the seat is one piece, one large seat for the whole bike. The materials are pleasant, the padding is soft, springy, and resilient, just as it should be. The passenger section here is only marked by stitching and along it. There are these metal bars here, which are very convenient to hold onto while riding. Both the passenger and rider foot pegs are rubberized, metal, and foldable. But there's one interesting detail. This is the first time I've seen this on full-sized electric bikes. Here the foot peg can be adjusted for tilt. That is, right now it's in its furthest back position, but you can set it down or move it forward. But through trial and error, I found that this is the most comfortable position. Because if you set the foot peg like this or forward, your foot doesn't rest against anything. And when you go over bumps, your foot bounces on the foot peg. While we're still on the topic of foot pegs, I want to draw your attention to these spots on the left and right. There are 2 keyholes located here. The left one opens the glove compartment and the right one opens the seat. On the right-hand side of the handlebar, you will find the front brake lever and the twistable throttle grip. By the way, the throttle here is cable operated, not electronic. Located right on top, we have the throttle lock button. So if it's flipped into the upward position, the throttle doesn't work at all. If it's switched down, it works. Below that is the hazard light switch. Even lower is the gear selector, first, second, third. And even lower, we have the parking and reverse button. Let me explain how it works. If you're in parking mode, you need to hold the brake and press the button once to disengage parking. If you want to go in reverse, you need to hold the button, and then by twisting the throttle, you'll go backward instead of forward. On the left handlebar, there's the rear brake lever. There's a switch for toggling between low and high beam. On the Dimen electric bike, the lights are always on, so you can only switch between low and high beam. You can also use this button to flash the lights if you press it towards yourself instead of switching it. Unfortunately, I didn't record any footage of the lights while riding at night. But the headlight is more than enough. The headlight is really great. It shines very powerfully. You can clearly see the beam from the low beam, and the high beam becomes more focused and also shines powerfully. So there are no issues with illumination at all. And as for the position lights, you saw for yourself, they're turning lights, and it all looks really beautiful. Overall, the lighting system is absolutely exceptional and high quality. Located just below are the dedicated control buttons for managing the display, and for turning the ABS and cruise control systems on or off. These two specific buttons, up and down, allow us to easily navigate and scroll through the various options in the menu on the display. This button is for cruise control. So I pressed it, the cruise control icon appeared, and it holds the speed that I set using the throttle. So here it is, I'm riding. And to add, by the way, that's pretty cool. Wow, its straight line stability is excellent. Really, it's just excellent. To turn it off, you either press the cruise control button, hit the brakes, or twist the throttle again. In other words, any action related to accelerating or braking will disable the cruise control. By the way, just out of curiosity, let's try to see at what minimum speed it will activate cruise control. Let's say 20 kilometers per hour. No, it doesn't turn on. 30 kmph, it activates at 30 kmph, so the minimum speed for cruise control is about 30 kmph. That's great. Man, the straight line stability really surprised me. I mean, seriously, it's just absolutely incredible, guys. I'm talking about the straight line stability on the AbMaxster. Honestly, it's even better here. You can really feel it. It's awesome. Damn. Of course, I know you guys are going to yell at me in the comments like, keep your hands on the wheel, idiot. But still, I had to try it out. Man, it's just so cool. Why did I only try this on the last day? Hitting 299. I've only ridden this bike just for this review, and it is finally happening. It's got a clean 300 on it. Damn, I've ridden 400 kilometers and only now tried how the cruise control keeps the bike steady without hands. I've already talked about the cruise control. It sets the speed, but doesn't change it. So, for example, on the YD keyness, you can adjust it up or down, plus or minus 5 kilometers per hour. But here, the speed you set is the one that's locked in. Now, let's wash it off. 30 kilometers per hour, cruise control. It goes at 37 to 38. You press up, but it says, no, I'm going 37 to 38. So these buttons are not meant for adjusting the cruise control. Therefore, if you want to change the cruise control speed, you'll have to accelerate and press the cruise control button again. Only then will it lock in the new speed. On the right, there are the OK button and the back button. They're also used for navigation through the menu, which I'm about to tell you about. And right here, there is a dedicated ABS button. By simply pressing and holding it down, you can manually toggle the ABS system on or off. Choose whichever way you prefer to ride, with ABS or without. The motorcycle lets you set it up as you like. Below that are the turn signal buttons, left and right. And to turn off the turn signal, you need to press the center button. And even lower is the horn paddle. By the way, the buttons on the left, up, down, back, and OK, are also duplicated on the display. Up, down, back, and OK. Moving on to the other controls. Everything here is just great. The control panels are high quality even in the dark. They have a blue backlight. You can even see it during the day, and at night it's just perfect. So even when you're riding in the evening or at night, all the buttons are visible. Everything is easy to read. You can see where everything is, even if you get confused or forget. It's all visible. Let's move on to the display. The display shows a lot of information, much more than on most electric bikes I've seen before. So right here, we have the kilometers and your current speed. You can easily switch this over to miles, and I will show you that later on. Over here on the display, you have the time, engine errors, the throttle lock, the kickstand, and all sorts of other notifications displayed right here for you. On the left, we see icons for ABS, TCS, and cruise control. Below these icons, we have the engine temperature, tire pressure sensors for both the front and rear wheels, and the electrical current that the motorcycle is consuming at this moment. Here we have 3 settings icons, which we'll get to later. This is the camera, this is the map, and these are the settings. Let's go further down. Here we have the battery charge. Battery 1, battery 2. Currently 69 and 70%. Trip is the current mileage for this session. From the moment you turn the motorcycle on until you turn it off. Audio is the total mileage. As you can see, I've already ridden almost 300 kilometers on this bike. On the right, we have the SD card icon displayed. That means there's a card in the navigator right now, and you can record video onto it. I'll talk about that a little later. Here we have the gear indicator. Right now it's in parking. Let's take it out of parking. First gear, second and third. And also, if you hold down reverse, it shows reverse here. Another quite interesting thing to note is that there is a built-in hour meter for this electric bike, which shows exactly how many hours you have ridden in total. So I have already ridden for about 400 kilometers on it so far. And the display shows it has been on for approximately 8 hours. And right here on the screen, we have the average kilometer per hour reading as well. It shows your approximate average speed for the previous session. Since we're filming now and mostly just rolling the bike around, our average speed is 5 kilometers per hour. Now let's move on to the deeper display settings. First, we go into the main menu where there's a little wrench icon and a gear drawn there. Just press OK. We then get 4 different sections: information, Bluetooth, and the system log. Let's start by looking at the information section. The first thing you can do is adjust the interface black theme, white theme, or set it to auto, because this display has a light sensor. If it's bright outside, it sets the white theme. If it's dark, it switches to the dark theme. You can set whichever one you like best as the default. Let's choose auto, for example. Select it, press OK, and scroll back to exit. Let's move on. Regarding the riding modes, there are the comfortable and the sport options available. In comfort mode, your top speed will be no more than 80 kilometers per hour, and it will consume no more than 80% of the battery power, amperes. In sport mode, the top speed is up to 120, and the dynamics are much more aggressive. In sport mode, it consumes a full 180 amperes compared to just 80 in comfort, which is almost 2.5 times more. Of course, we always ride in sport mode like true enthusiasts and real men. Moving on, right here we have the digital clock, where you can easily set the current date and time. Right now, the time is set to Chinese time, which is 5 hours ahead of Moscow, so we won't change it for now. Let it stay like that. Display brightness. Again, you can choose the absolute minimum, the absolute maximum, or you can simply set it to automatic. Let's move on. Units. The system is metric and imperial. That's meters and inches. Basically, this will show you in kilometers and this will show you in miles. Of course, we use kilometers since we're in Russia after all. Let's move on. Regarding the language settings, there aren't many options available here, but you can choose between either Chinese or English. We prefer to use English since we understand it much better, especially for units like meters per second. As I understand it, this is the setting for connecting to the tire pressure sensors. They worked with them via Bluetooth, so this is the connect for them. The default factory settings are installed here. Everything is displayed correctly, so we won't touch them. Let's move on. Reversing is the reverse speed, meaning how fast you can go in reverse compared to normal speed. Right now it's set to the maximum because I'm already used to reversing, and the slower speed feels too slow for me. You don't need to go backwards at just a few kilometers per hour. Let's move on. Traction control. As I mentioned before, this feature effectively prevents the rear wheel from slipping while you are driving on slippery surfaces. Of course, we turn it on. And the last setting in this menu is brakes. This is electric braking with recuperation. If you turn it off, you'll only be able to brake using the brake discs. In other words, engine electric braking won't work, and you'll always have to use the disc brake, the hydraulic disc brake. Of course, we turn it on because it's an incredibly convenient feature, and it also provides recuperation. Let's move on. Let's scroll. Bluetooth. These are the Bluetooth connection settings. It shows who is connected to you, whether it's enabled or disabled. Right now, we're not connected to Bluetooth from the phone. I'll demonstrate that a bit later. For now, we're not connected. Let's move on. Recorder, meaning recording. Here we have recordings from the dashcam. We press OK. In this section, you can browse your photo gallery, watch video clips, parole, and capture new recordings. Press OK. The small red light started blinking, and recording has now started. And now we'll bring it to a halt. Now we go to video playback, open up and select the very latest recording and watch it. Here it is, the successful video recording we just made. Let's move on. System. Here it simply shows which software version is installed on this controller and this display. Basically nothing complicated. You can also connect your phone to the Dimen e-bike and project the navigator from it onto the display. To do this, we select the map icon here and press OK. A QR code pops up on the screen. You simply scan it to download the app, connect via Bluetooth, and project the navigator. Now you don't even need your phone here. You can just use the navigator directly from your smartphone, but view it clearly on the display. Done. The Dimen e-bike also has some other very cool features like convenient keyless access. We don't have an ignition key. Instead, we have this small NFC card. There are two included in the set. You just tap it on top of the glove box lid to turn the motorcycle on or off. And another cool feature is the self-diagnosis of the motor and controller for any errors. On the Dimen electric motorcycle, the wires for calibrating the motor and controller are located under the left panel. To start the calibration, open the left panel. You'll need a hex key for this. Next, find the two symmetrical terminals that can be connected to each other. Turn off the bike, connect the terminals to each other, thus closing the circuit. Turn on the motorcycle and the calibration will begin. At first, the electric motor will spin slowly. Then it will pause. After that, it will spin faster. Then it will stop. After this, you need to turn off the motorcycle and disconnect the wires. Calibration is complete. Each Dimen electric bike comes with two sets of keys. Each set contains 3 items. Here they are. The first is the alarm remote, used to turn the alarm on and off. The second is the key for opening the glove compartment in the seat. And the third is an NFC card for starting and turning off the motorcycle. Our subscribers frequently complain that we don't talk enough about the potential downsides of the electric vehicles we review. So here are the negative aspects for you. I hope you don't think they're far-fetched, but I honestly couldn't find any more cons. So the first con. When I first played with Dimen almost a year ago, I told the Chinese manufacturers that the seal here wasn't thick enough. Because of that, the lid has a bit of play and starts knocking against the plastic, rattling quite a bit whenever you hit those big bumps. They said they'd fix it, everything would be fine. They didn't fix it. Up until now, as I'm testing it, they still haven't fixed it. I cursed out the Chinese with some choice words, made the seal myself, and sent it to them. See, I said, here it is. And they were like, sorry, bro, Now they've all responded and sent me a seal. But we didn't have time to wait for it. We started filming, so that's one of the cons. It's already been fixed, but it annoyed me for a couple of days. The second drawback I found is also related to a factory defect. We've already fixed it. So in general, the display. As I mentioned earlier, it has a switch between comfort and sport modes. In comfort mode, you have access to only 80 amperes, and in sport mode, you have access to 180 amperes. And 80 is the maximum speed, and 120 is the maximum speed. So it appears this particular display unit has a specific software bug, specifically just this one, because I personally tested several other Dimen models, and they didn't have this issue at all. Every single time the motorcycle, after a long stop, or even after turning the engine off, automatically switches itself into the standard parking mode. The riding mode unexpectedly resets itself back to the default comfort setting. At the same time, the settings are set to sport, but by all parameters, it behaves like comfort in terms of speed. You have comfort mode on, and to fix this, you need to go back to the display, switch from sport to comfort, then from comfort back to sport. And only then does it work again until the next time you park. We tried to fix this issue. Balancing the controller's engine didn't lead to anything. In the end, we reached an agreement with the Chinese and we got a new display. We'll replace it. And this bug supposedly won't happen anymore, but still, over a couple of days, maybe about 10 times. During all this filming, over these 300 kilometers, I had to deal with it, switching it back and forth. And the third drawback, for which you can really, let's say, criticize the Dimen electric motorcycle, is its short range. In eco mode, in comfort, at first speed, it will go its 150 to 160 kilometers. I won't argue with that. But you're not buying it as a gift for your grandmother. I'm sure that you, just like me, will be riding all the time in third gear in maximum sport mode. And in that mode, with my weight and height, I only managed to get 70 kilometers out of it. And that's pretty little. If you want to get 150 kilometers out of it, set it to normal mode, ride at 80 kilometers per hour with minimal acceleration, and everything will be just fine. But if you can floor it, why not floor it? Damn, well, even so, it's comfortable, fun, but not in terms of acceleration off the line, more in terms of speed. So for speeds up to 80, it's more than enough. That is exactly why, in my personal opinion, this electric bike is really only suitable for those who do not need to travel more than 50 kilometers in a single day. This ensures that you still have a little bit of extra reserve power left over, especially considering that you are using it at the absolute maximum power and speed settings. So I want to talk a bit about using this bike. I'll probably start with the riding position. The riding position is upright and comfortable. The handlebars are quite high relative to the seat height, so you don't get blown off this motorcycle at high speeds, like over 100 kilometers per hour. You don't get blown off nearly as hard as, for example, on the Maxtrek electric bike. So that's a solid 5+. Secondly, the seat. The seat is quite large and incredibly soft, and at the same time, it provides a very comfortable level of softness. Let's put it that way. Because it has excellent padding, it springs back very well. And on this specific bike, I actually rode for probably more than an hour in a single session. And honestly, everything felt absolutely great and quite comfortable the entire time. My backside was delighted. Nothing hurts, my lower back doesn't ache like it does on some bikes. Overall, the riding position is good. There's a feature with the amps, which are displayed here on the left side of the display. Right now it's at 0, -5, -8, and then it goes up to +5, 13, 29, 34. Basically, that's the current, the amperage it's consuming. So can I go here? That is the total amperage it is consuming right now. What does this give you? First of all, you can see your consumption. So this gives you an excellent understanding of how the electric motor and the battery work. I've already done a full review on how to calculate the range, and there I explained that there's a peak, roughly speaking, power that's delivered when you're accelerating. Or at the moment when you have strong resistance, for example, when climbing a steep hill. Or if we're talking about off-road vehicles, it's when you're getting out of some wild mud, when your wheels are just stuck in clay. So here you can see it really clearly because the electrical current is clearly displayed right here, showing you exactly how much energy you're consuming right now directly on the display. And you quickly realize that if you're cruising at a steady 100 kilometers per hour, you're consuming significantly less current. It actually uses less current than if you were just accelerating from a complete standstill at a traffic light. And that's really cool. And another major advantage here is that this bike, as I mentioned earlier, is equipped with regeneration. And you can see exactly how much energy is going back into regeneration. According to the numbers I have already checked on the display, in comfort mode at third speed, it gives a maximum of 80. That is 80 to 82 amps. That is its current consumption level. And in sport mode, it gives 180. So that number is almost 3 times as much. And that is the main difference between the sport and comfort settings. To put it simply, you can travel about 2.5 times a greater distance in comfort mode than in sport mode. When it comes to the regeneration, the maximum value that I observed was 28 amps. Of course, it is not always constant. Right now, it is fluctuating at around 16 or 15. And it is very important to understand that the energy regeneration here is directly linked to the electric brake, and specifically to engine braking, which is automatically activated whenever you press the brake lever and the brake lights come on. So if you really want to recover as much energy as possible through regenerative braking, you need to squeeze the brake lever gently, but not all the way down to the mechanical disc brakes, and certainly not to the point where the calipers fully engage. Let me show you exactly what I mean by that. Oh, there's a hill ahead. Perfect. So look, we're moving now. And I'm applying a bit of gentle pressure to the brake. I'm not relying on the disc brakes, but at the same time, I'm utilizing the engine itself to slow down. So I just pressed it a little, just enough for the brake light to come on. That's why, if you want to maximize your driving range as much as possible, you should avoid using the disc brakes. You brake with the engine instead. You should only use the disc brakes when you need to bring the vehicle to a stop much more quickly than the engine can manage, because engine braking gives you, well, not exactly a smooth, but a relatively gentle and controlled deceleration. So you can eventually come to a complete stop with it, but you must realize that your braking distance will be very long. Consequently, when riding in the city, if you see something from afar, you should begin to brake with the electric motor. However, if you urgently need to stop and the obstacle ahead is already quite close, then you must press down firmly to engage the calipers and disc brakes. Additionally, the handlebar is a very good width for navigating the city. It's almost perfectly flush with the mirrors. When riding between lanes, I had absolutely no problems at all. The handlebar is exactly where it needs to be. Any wider wouldn't make sense. Any narrower would probably be a bit uncomfortable. As for the quality of the bike itself, I've already mentioned this in the video, but I'll repeat it again. In my opinion, this bike is a solid 8 out of 10 in terms of quality, if we're using a 10-point scale. That is, it features premium materials, responsive buttons, and a solid set of accessories. The tires are high quality, the brakes are installed, everything works as it should. At the same time, it's pleasant to touch the bike. There are no strange creaks or knocks, and the bike feels solid. In terms of quality, it's probably similar to the Yagi Akini's bike, which I was absolutely thrilled with. Here, essentially, the quality is similar. Well, maybe just a tiny bit worse. I think the Akinis is still closer to a 9 out of 10 from what I've tried, and this one is more like an 8. But this one has more features, so it seems a bit more interesting to me. Overall, the quality is excellent. I like everything. There are no problems at all. The quality is just awesome. Oh, by the way, I wanted to share something funny. Our cameraman, Dima, I'm going to out you here. Basically, he weighs almost 120 kilograms. And when we went out filming, we rode from the store, not far from here, to a residential complex, and we went together. The bike handled everything remarkably well and stoically. Just so you understand, I myself weigh approximately 85 kilograms, and then there's Dima, who weighs another 120. So together, that's well over 200 kilograms. The bike rode just fine, pulled us without any issues, no complaints at all. So if you're going to ride alone, say as a heavier person, you won't have any problems with it. If you're planning to give a ride to, say, a girl, not someone Dima's size, I hope, then riding together will be no problem at all. It'll be very comfortable for 2 people. The bike doesn't lose speed or power, and it pulls uphill or on flat ground equally well. Makes no difference. Let's talk about this bike's competitors. Electric bikes. What other options can you buy in this price range that are worthy of your attention? 2 bikes immediately come to mind. The first is the Yagi Akinis, and the second is the Neo RQi. Let's go ahead and start our comparison with the Neo, because the Neo is remarkably similar, almost like a twin brother to the Dimen electric bike. They have nearly identical technical specifications and are available for almost the same price. The only real difference between them is the design. Basically, just pick the one whose look you like more. Personally, I lean towards the Dimen because I think its design turned out cooler. That is why I am cheering for its success. But basically, the bikes are the same. So if you have a Neo RQi, you can get a very good idea of roughly 90% of what it is like to ride the Dimen. Essentially, it's the same bike, just with a different look. Now, about the Yagi Akins, the Yagi Akins will be a bit cheaper. The Yagi Akins will also have a glove compartment and a removable battery. The only nuance is the huge difference between the Yagi and the Dimen. The Dimen is full-sized. I feel comfortable on it, even at 1.94 meters tall, but the Yagi Akins is small. So if your height is probably below 1.70 or even 1.75 meters, then go for the Yagi Akins. If you're taller than 1.75 meters, then choose the Dimen. In my opinion, the Dimen electric bike is the best electric motorcycle in the budget, up to 800,000 rubles. That's why I recommend it to everyone, except for those who need to cover long distances every day. 100, 150 or even more kilometers. If you need to travel about 50 kilometers a day or even less, then this is simply the best option you can find.